The Angel of the Odd by Edgar Allan Poe. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by David Patrick Lockhart. It was a chilly November afternoon. I had just consummated an unusually hearty dinner, of which the dyspeptic truff formed not the least important item, and was sitting alone in the dining room. With my feet upon the fender, and at my elbow a small table which I had rolled up to the fire, and upon which were some apologies for dessert, with some miscellaneous bottles of wine, spirit, and liquor. In the morning I had been reading Glover's Leonidas, Wilkie's Epiconiad, Lamartine's Pilgrimage, Barlow's Columbiad, Tuckerman's Sicily, and Griswold's Curiosities. I am willing to confess, therefore, that I now felt a little stupid. I made effort to arouse myself by frequent aid of Lafitte, and all failing, I betook myself to a stray newspaper in despair. Having carefully perused the column of Houses to Let, and the column of Dogs Lost, and then the columns of Wives and Apprentices Run Away, I attacked with great resolution the editorial matter, and reading it from beginning to end without understanding a syllable, conceived the possibility of its being Chinese, and so reread it from the end to the beginning, but with no more satisfactory result. I was about throwing it away in disgust, this folio of 4 pages, happy work which not even the critics criticize, when I felt my attention somewhat aroused by the paragraph which follows. The avenues to death are numerous and strange. A London paper mentions the decease of a person from a singular cause. He was playing at Puff the Dart, which is played with a long needle inserted in some worsted, and blown at a target through a tin tube. He placed the needle at the wrong end of the tube, and drawing his breath strongly to puff the dart forward with force, drew the needle into his throat. It entered the lungs, and in a few days killed him. Upon seeing this, I fell into a great rage, without exactly knowing why. "This thing," I exclaimed, "is a contemptible falsehood, a poor hoax, the lees of the invention of some pitiable penny-a-liner, of some wretched concocter of accidents in cocaine. These fellows, knowing the extravagant gullibility of the age, set their wits to work in the imagination of improbable possibilities, of odd accidents, as they term them. But to a reflecting intellect, like mine," I added, in parentheses, putting my forefinger unconsciously to the side of my nose, "to a contemplative understanding such as I myself possess, it seems evident at once that the marvelous increase of late in these odd accidents is by far the oddest accident of all. For my own part, I intend to believe nothing henceforward that has anything of the singular about it." "Mein Gott, then, what a fool you bees for that!" replied one of the most remarkable voices I have ever heard. At first I took it for a rumbling in my ears, such as a man sometimes experiences when getting very drunk. But upon second thought, I considered the sound as more nearly resembling that which proceeds from an empty barrel beaten with a big stick. And, in fact, this I should have concluded it to be, but for the articulation of the syllables and words. I am by no means naturally nervous, and the very few glasses of Lafitte which I had sipped served to embolden me a little, so that I felt nothing of trepidation, but merely uplifted my eyes with a leisurely movement and looked carefully around the room for the intruder. I could not, however, perceive any one at all. "Humph!" resumed the voice as I continued my survey. "You must be so drunk as the pig, then, for not see me as I sit here by your side." Hereupon I bethought me of looking immediately before my nose, and there, sure enough, confronting me at the table, sat a personage nondescript, although not altogether indescribable. His body was a wine-pipe, or a rum-puncheon, or something of that character, and had a truly Falstaffian air. In its nether extremity were inserted 2 kegs, which seemed to answer all the purposes of legs. For arms there were dangled from the upper portion of the carcass 2 tolerably long bottles, with the necks outward for hands. All the head that I saw of the monster possessed of was one of those Hessian canteens, which resemble a large snuff-box, with a hole in the middle of the lid. This canteen, with a funnel on its top like a cavalier cap slouched over the eyes, was set on edge upon the puncheon, with a hole toward myself. And through this hole, which seemed puckered up like the mouth of a very precise old maid, The creature was emitting certain rumbling and grumbling noises which he evidently intended for intelligible talk. "I say," said he, "you must be drunk as the pig, for zit there and not see me zit here. And I say, do, you must be bigger fool as the goose, for to disbelieve what is print in the print. 'Tis the truth, that it is, every word of it." "Who are you, I pray?" said I, with much dignity, although somewhat puzzled. "How did you get here, and what is it you're talking about?" "As for how I come here," replied the figure, "that is none of your business. As for what I be talking about, I be talk about what I think proper. And as for who I be, why that is the very thing I come for to let you see for yourself." "You're a drunken vagabond," said I, "and I shall ring the bell and order my footman to kick you into the street." "He, he," said the fellow, "that you can't do." "Can't do," said I. "What do you mean, I can't do what?" "Ring the bell," he replied, attempting a grin with his little villainous mouth. Upon this I made an effort to get up in order to put my threat into execution. But the ruffian just reached across the table, very deliberately, and hitting me a tap on the forehead with the neck of one of the long bottles, knocked me back into the armchair from which I had half arisen. I was utterly astounded, and for a moment was quite at a loss what to do. In the meantime he continued his talk. "You see," said he, "it is best for sit still. And now you shall know who I be. Look at me. See, I am the angel of the art." "And odd enough, too," I ventured to reply. "But I was always under the impression that an angel had wings." "The wing!" he cried, highly incensed. "What I be do mit the wing? Mein Gott, you take me for a chicken?" "No, no," I replied, much alarmed. "You're no chicken, certainly not." "Well then, sit still and behave yourself, or I'll rap you again mid the visit. It is the chicken ab the wing, und the owl ab the wing, und the imp ab the wing, und the head toffel ab the wing. The angel ab not the wing, and I am the angel of the art." "And your business with me at present is—" "Me business!" ejaculated the thing. "Why, what a low-bred puppy you must be for to ask a gentleman and an angel about his business!" This language was rather more than I could bear, even from an angel. So plucking up courage, I seized a salt cellar which lay within reach, and hurled it at the head of the intruder. Either he dodged, however, or my aim was inaccurate, for all I accomplished was to demolish the crystal which protected the dial of the clock upon the mantelpiece. As for the angel, he evinced his sense of my assault by giving me 2 or 3 hard consecutive raps upon the forehead as before. Hereupon the angel of the odd replenished my goblet, which was about 1/3 full of port, with a colorless fluid that he poured from one of his hand bottles. I observed that these bottles had labels about their necks, and that these labels were inscribed Kirchenwasser. The considerate kindness of the angel mollified me in no little measure, and, aided by the water, which he diluted my port more than once, I at length regained sufficient temper to listen to his very extraordinary discourse. I cannot pretend to recount all that he told me, but I gleaned from what he said that he was a genius who presided over the contretemps of mankind, and whose business it was to bring about the odd accidents which are continually astonishing the skeptic. Once or twice, upon my venturing to express my total incredulity in respect to his pretensions, he grew very angry indeed, so that at length I considered it the wiser policy to say nothing at all, and let him have his own way. He talked on, therefore, at great length, while I merely leaned back in my chair with my eyes shut, and amused myself with munching raisins and flipping the stems about the room. But by and by the angel suddenly construed this behavior of mine into contempt. He arose in a terrible passion, slouched his funnel down over his eyes, swore a vast oath, uttered a threat of some character which I did not precisely comprehend, and finally made me a low bow and departed, wishing me, in the language of the Archbishop in Gil Blas, beaucoup de bonheur et un peu plus de bon sens. His departure afforded me relief. The very few glasses of Lafitte that I had sipped had the effect of rendering me drowsy, and I felt inclined to take a nap of some 15 or 20 minutes, as is my custom after dinner. At 6 I had an appointment of consequence, which it was quite indispensable that I should keep. The policy of insurance for my dwelling-house had expired the day before, and some dispute having arisen, it was agreed that, at 6, I should meet the board of directors of the company and settle the terms of a renewal. Glancing upward at the clock on the